Crossovers. Some are well received, others not so much. Personally, I've never really been a big fan. There are exceptions, but I feel like shows are generally better when they just stay separate from each other. Of course, there's a whole nother argument to be made about spin-offs, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I am here to talk about is the recent episode of Abbott Elementary. And I know I'm a couple weeks late, but I do what I can. It was a crossover with Always Sunny, so I figured since my last Always Sunny episode did so well, I'd go ahead and talk about this one too. But before I get too deep into the video, if you like the content I put out, please like the video and subscribe for more. It lets me and the algorithm know that I'm a channel worth promoting. When it was first announced that this crossover was going to be happening, my initial thoughts were, why? It seemed like an odd pairing because they don't really have anything in common. I mean, I know that they're both sitcoms and they're both set in Philly, and so I guess that's all they really needed, but it just seemed odd to me. Don't get me wrong, I love Abbott and I still watch Always Sunny to this day. I mean, that is the first 10 or 11 seasons or so. Although I have heard that season 16 has gotten a lot better, so I'll probably check it out later. Either way, these two shows are very different with very different tones and personalities. Jokes on Abbott tend to be more safe and clean, at least when compared to something as unhinged as Always Sunny. And that's fine. Like I said before, I love both of these shows. It just seemed like mixing strawberries and pizza. I love strawberries, I love pizza, but I don't want a strawberry pizza. I really didn't know what to expect. And all the marketing seemed forced? Is that a good word? I don't know.
I know what's going on. That's just a tip of the trash can.
Yeah, we'll say it's forced. The point is, my expectations were low, but I still plan on watching it because it was the next episode of a show that I enjoy. So was it good? Well, the short answer is, I don't want you to misunderstand me though. It wasn't bad, it was just meh. It was vanilla pudding. Not my first choice, but I'll take it if it's all there is. Toward the start of the episode, the groups are thrown together under the premise of the gang being at Abbott to work as volunteers, and we have our obligatory "this is a crossover" moment.
You guys look familiar to me.
No, we don't.
And at this moment, I looked at the gang and I just thought, damn, they're old. Like, obviously, that's how time works. People get old, but it was so off-putting. I mean, they are still pulling shenanigans and scamming businesses, I'm assuming, and vandalizing public property at 47, 48 years old? Or 80 in Danny DeVito's case? I don't know. It just seems like maybe the show's been running too long. Maybe they just need to move on. But I know, like I said, a lot of people told me season 16 is better, so I promise I will eventually check it out. Let's get into my issues with the episode. My first problem with this crossover was Dennis, or really lack thereof. He made a big deal as soon as they show him about being shown on camera, because it's a mockumentary, right? So they could see the cameras. So he was like, I don't want to do this.
No, I don't think so. I know quite a bit about filming and consent, and I think I'll be spending my time on the other side of the camera. Thank you very much.
And then you only see him like one more time the entire episode. I looked it up, and apparently Glenn Howerton had to film another movie for Netflix, so he just couldn't be present for most of filming. Like, okay, I guess. It was just disappointing because I would have loved to see the crazy stuff he could do at the school. There was one mention from another teacher that I've never seen before saying that he kept hitting on her and inviting her to the bar.
The tall, skinny one who's like hiding behind the cameras, he keeps asking me out to some gross bar with like 300 one-star reviews.
But that's about it. It just seemed like a loss. Then they break off into pairs and go off to their different areas to help out, and as they're deciding who's gonna go where, Mr. Johnson says, I've got some raccoons I need to catch. And I got a little excited because that's Charlie work. Charlie bashes mice and pests and whatnot. He's a janitor. Mr. Johnson is a janitor. Perfect. Instead, Frank goes with him, and they have a bit of fun with it.
Has anyone ever worked in a garden?
I lived outside.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this was probably one of the better storylines, but I don't know. It was fine.
But by the way, the piss pelts worked. I didn't see one raccoon.
Not bad, not good. Like a plain kid's burger. That's not the worst thing you'll ever have, but why would you order it for yourself? What Charlie ended up doing was going with Jacob, which was fine too, and Jacob finds out, oh, Charlie can't read. And Charlie's a little weird about it because he always is, but then he learns to read this episode. Like, I get that this is an elementary school and it's kind of the perfect place for Charlie to learn to read, so I understand the decision. I just don't know how I feel about such an integral character trait being changed on a completely different show. This has been a running gag since the very beginning, and to have such a long-standing conflict resolved on somebody else's show seems strange. But I guess we have seen worse examples of this. I did like this subplot, but I don't know if I'd say that it was great. It was just like plain toast. You realize after your first bite that you forgot to put butter or jelly or whatever on it, but You already sat down. Might as well just commit. Mac went with Ava, and I don't know, it just seemed pointless every time they were on screen. Do I just not know Mac's character anymore? Like, what happened to him? He used to be this wannabe tough guy wearing dusters and running ocular pat-downs on people. He brought weapons to a school one time to protect the kids there, and now he's this submissive, attentive husk of a man. When did this happen? I noticed this with the zoo episode, but I didn't really think anything of it, but I just couldn't ignore it here. This people-pleasing personality, it's kind of like the tone he used to use with his dad. But it made sense there. It was his dad. He wanted his approval. And now he's just that way with everyone. Is this just how he's been for the last few seasons? I don't get it. I didn't find it very funny, but I did think that it was funny that Ava had him doing a bunch of personal favors for her because, like, it's Ava. Of course she's gonna do that. I think it would have been better if Mac had screwed up somehow because he's an idiot. I can't think of specific examples, but I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I just thought that of the 4 mini plots that this was the worst one. It was like hot cocoa made with water instead of milk. You drink it just because it's given to you, but then you set it down after a few sips and forget about it. Last but not least was Dee. She was definitely the most unhinged of the group, and I was glad to see that. I was glad to see that at least one member of the gang hasn't been watered down for the sake of another show. Even though she was a little bit, it's just different networks. What are you gonna do? Every time she talks about Gregory, I couldn't help but think of the episode where the gang is trying to find her baby daddy and all the guys are talking about how awful she is. She came off as a genuine psychopath there, and that's why I watch Always Sunny. And Janine's reaction also felt natural and authentic to her character. She's always had this self-conscious attitude, and the show has explored that in earlier seasons with her mom and with her sisters, so her being worried that Gregory would leave her for someone as crazy as Dee, it made sense. I also love that the 2 women were able to bond over both having attended Penn.
Penn? Oh, hell yeah!
I cracked up at that part, and my wife was completely lost for a second because she does not watch Always Sunny at all. She does not like it. But I thought it was so funny because I was really hoping that it would come up that Dee didn't finish her degree because she set her roommate on fire, but it never did. At least I'm pretty sure that's how that happened. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that was the timeline. Unfortunately, it didn't go anywhere. They just both mentioned that they went to Penn, and that was that. There were a few funny lines, but kind of just fizzled out. I think that plot line was a little disappointing just because of lack of screen time. They didn't get a chance to develop it as much as it could have been developed, but still. I would compare Dee and Janine's plot to Juicy Fruit. It tastes really good for about 5 minutes, but then it loses its flavor. You just keep chewing because you wanted gum. Overall, this episode wasn't bad. I don't think it was necessarily good, but I enjoyed some moments. If I had to guess, I would chalk it up to a few factors. One, ABC is a much safer channel than FX, so classic Always Sunny would never thrive there. And therefore, the gang had to be watered down to make Abbott audiences be able to accept it. And then 2, there ended up being a lot of characters fighting for screen time, so each arc is always going to feel rushed and unsatisfied. I think that's a common thread with crossovers in general though, but I don't know. And then 3, the cast of Always Sunny has been off doing their own side projects for years now, and I don't think their heart is completely in the show anymore. I went in with the lowest of expectations, and I wasn't disappointed. It definitely could have been a lot worse, but I don't know if it could have been better. I think that's all you can really ask for with a crossover like this though. Overall, it was fine. It was like eating Taco Bell. I would never offer it as an option, but if others want to go, I'm not going to fight it either. Hey, I really appreciate you watching the video to the end. I do plan on putting out other videos. I've got a game review coming out, hopefully in the next few months. I'm just about finished with it. It was supposed to be the next video, but I saw this episode and figured, hey, why not? I'll make a short little review about it. So yeah, it was not planned. This one was not on the docket or anything. But I hope that I could keep up some decent pace. I just started a master's program, so I am probably about as busy as I've ever been in my life. But I don't want that to affect the growth of the channel because, you know, the goal would be to be able to do this full time. But obviously I got to get there first. So I appreciate your support. Thank you again for watching all the way through. Like, subscribe, share this with your friends, and yeah.